Welcome to INS, the International News Service, your source for the most important weird news from across the globe. With news analyst Kevin Harrison, actor, comedian, and musician Mike Wiebe, and professional commentator Brian Camp. INS, the news you need.
Yes, what day is today, Brian?
Like the day that people are going to hear this or the day it is?
We record on the day people get it.
Oh.
We record at 2 a.m. It's released at 5 a.m.
Well, we record some of it in advance, and then it's a live show when people actually hear it. That's why every time you listen to an episode, it's a little bit different, because it's hard for us to remember what we did the time before.
Right. Well, and also, our memories aren't that great anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, they never.
Mine
was never.
I can remember. Ask me. Give me a single date from my past, and I'll say exactly what I was doing. A time and a date.
December 13th, 1908.
December 13th, 1908.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I was taking the buggy across the Great Plains, and I was fighting. Against drought, trying to get my family to a place where there was water.
Uh-huh.
Sadly, we all died several days later.
It sounds like you're just describing the game Oregon Trail.
It did not happen in Oregon.
And also, the Oregon Trail was before that.
It was actually the
I'm glad
Happy
you say
Trail.
Oregon.
I died on the Happy Trail. Kevin, do you have a date and time? And I can tell you exactly what I was doing.
June 14th, 1982.
June 14th, 1982. I was fucking 3 supermodels at the same time. And the least attractive one said, "Hey, save some for me."
When you were 6.
Yeah, I guess I was. Yeah.
No, he's got that amulet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was still 6.
No, he wasn't 6.
No,
He's been.
I kind of make up how old I am.
Did you get that amulet from Zoltan in the movie Big?
No. And Zoltan's not from the movie Big. He's from Battle of the Planets, a.k.a. G-Force, a.k.a. Science Ninja Team Gotcha Man, Kagaku Ninja Tai Gotcha Man.
At least we have our nerd credentials ready.
I was about to say,
I think that's actually cool credentials.
Somebody is pumping their fist in joy right now at hearing a connection, yet another connection with INS, and specifically you, Michael.
You know what I will say? I enjoyed some of the Japanimation.
That's what it was called at the time, yes.
Japanimation. I enjoyed it before it was popular, and now that it's popular, I have absolutely no connection with any of it.
Right,
and that's not to be more cool or anything. It just I don't know if it's maybe something you grow out of or whatever. But
you have to dedicate your life to that. There's so much now.
Well, but you liked late 70s animation. It was different.
Yeah.
It's like me saying I love old Tom and Jerry's. There's an era of Tom and Jerry I don't like. I don't like the 80s Tom and Jerry.
You don't like the woke. You don't like it when they got woke.
Yeah. I don't need Jerry to preach to me anymore.
Are you Team Tom or Team Jerry?
I like both of them. I don't like Jerry when he gets too cocky and I feel like he's rubbing it in Tom's face.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't like that. But I like Tom more and more the more villainous he gets. Like the episodes that feature a conniving and hand-wringing, mouse poisoning Tom I can get, the better I want. And that's the best Tom.
Wow.
Oh, as long as Jerry takes a step above Tom in morality, then I'm okay with Jerry. But he can't sink to Tom's level, or he loses my respect and adoration.
Mm-hmm. And as long as neither one of them are woke.
Yeah, that's right.
As long as I can tell they're both patriots.
I can tell you that I don't want to get into the details, but there's definitely some Tom and Jerry episodes that are not woke.
No. That would be the character Mammy Two Shoes that has been removed.
Was that her official name?
That is her official name, yeah. They've changed her voice. She's still, and there's some episodes she's not in at all anymore.
Yeah.
But they don't play some of those. Those are pretty bad. There's a couple that involve things happening on tropical islands that have a decidedly worse flair, I think.
Oh, no, I don't remember that.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I think there's only 1 or 2
And those are so what you're saying is those are your favorite episodes, Brian.
No, they're not. Although the early episodes are really, man, the very first episode's great. That's the one with, I think it's not Puss Gets the Boot. It's the one where the meme of Tom on the train and he's got that maniacal grin on his face because he's about to run over Jerry tied up on the railroad track.
Wow.
And the bird drops the bowling ball and puts a hole in the floor. And the train just shoots down in the basement. It's so good.
Were those probably made for the cinema?
Oh, yeah.
There's no TV back then.
And this is an interesting thing to me, at least, since we're talking about Tom and Jerry. Yeah. My lovely wife thought that Mayor Quimby on The Simpsons, she was pretty convinced that Mayor Quimby is a dig at Fred Quimby, who produced all of the early Hanna-Barbera. They weren't Hanna-Barbera. Hanna-Barbera were the animators and the writers, but Fred Quimby was the producer. I forget which company it was, but they did, what do you call it, Kevin? You're a film guy. When the cells that you put credits on back in the day, like they drew those credits. And so they kind of also did this. And Fred Quimby, apparently, according to her research, very reluctantly went along with creating more of these Tom and Jerry cartoons. So he's always prominently featured as though he's a big part of it, but he was a real naysayer of early Tom and Jerry.
Oh,
maybe there is a connection to Diamond Joe Quimby.
I always thought he was more of a Kennedy, but
I think he might be, and that's what I thought too.
Maybe they got the name. Maybe they got the name from that.
Right, little dig.
I think it would be stranger if he was not a Kennedy, but somebody else.
Kennedy had sex with Marilyn Monroe.
Whoa, are you right?
And so did his brother, making them both biological and Eskimo brothers.
What? I don't even know what that means.
It's a phrase, I believe, that is used to...
Let me tell you a little bit about lad culture or bro culture, Kevin.
Okay.
That's where I originate from. That's the scene I grew up in. And we have a number of terms and terminology that go to describe our sexual conquests. And maybe this falls into that. Let me tell you what. Why don't you look it up on the Urban Dictionary?
Okay.
They have advertisers on Urban Dictionary.
Probably.
Does anyone still look at Urban Dictionary?
I do occasionally, because somebody in a rap song will say a word that I don't know, and I'll have to go on there and see what it means.
How else are you going to find out? You got to look it up.
Yeah,
for you.
I mean, I think that's the thing is Urban Dictionary is mostly used by people over 40. Find out what the kids are talking about. Or in Mike's case, rapping about.
I recently had to go on there. I heard a new term and I had to go look it up. It was
what was it?
What does OPP mean?
Don't keep us in suspense. What does it mean?
I can't say it. I don't want to get the podcast shut down.
Still, just discovered naughty.
And I do think that I think it was in their nature to constantly be naughty.
They couldn't help it.
They couldn't help it. It was they were genetically predisposed to mischievous behavior. And and I mean, writing songs about stuff like that, that is not that's not going to get you a scolding from the headmistress.
Wait, do you want that or you don't want that?
Well, you don't want that. You don't want to demerit on your permanent record.
What was a hot headmistress?
This boarding school, Mike, all this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, well, not at the boarding school I go with. It is an old battle axe. All the headmistresses are too mean to be nuns. They were too cruel.
Too mean to nuns. Yeah.
All right.
OPP.
And what does that stand for again? Did we establish that? Or
I don't think I can say it out loud without blushing.
Oh boy. Don't say that one, Michael.
The first word is other, the second word is persons, and the third word, well, that gets a little complicated.
I'll take a sip of my coffee while I think about that one, Mike. Don't want to get in trouble with the standards and practices, folks.
Yeah, the FCC, which is much different from other OPP.
Oh.
FCC and OPP do not get along. I'll tell you that right now.
Kevin, you want to tell us about traffic?
Yeah, what else? What's the weather like?
It's 75 degrees here in downtown Denton, and traffic's clear.
And I like that you sounded like you were reading off of a World War II newsreel, because I think we discussed, I don't know, but today, the day people are hearing this.
Is it Armistice Day?
No, sir. It is the day that will live in infamy.
In infamousness.
Oh. Infamousness.
Like the Three Amigos.
Mm-hmm. Right. And for the international listener who may not know this is the day that the Emperor of Japan sent his mighty warships across the Pacific to surprisingly attack Pearl Harbor in a sneak attack.
Brian got real serious there.
It was also the day that...
I almost said something terrible. I would not have been proud of myself for saying.
It was also the day that the American government knew about it and let it happen.
Yeah, I don't know about that, man.
Why? Guess who was in the government back then?
Did the Japanese promise a cure for polio to FDR?
It wasn't. FDR had a bit of a grime of worm tongue whispering into his ear.
Yeah? Who was that?
Oh, no.
By the name of Hillary S. Clinton.
I think she was like 3 when that happened.
It's the wrong middle name.
Has she possibly ever come across an amulet?
No, she wasn't even born yet.
Oh, well, no. Now, Mike raised interesting points, Kevin. I know the internet will have you believe she was born later, but I think Mike's right. I think she has an amulet.
Tortoises live for hundreds of years. Tortoises, reptiles, not unlike what? Lizards.
Oh, now we're getting into... I like that not only have we done the U.S. knew about the impending attack on Pearl Harbor, we're also ruled by lizard people.
Well, yeah, we knew that.
I mean, just do your own research. That's all I have to say.
Right. Well, certainly, I would think, and this isn't just American. I know that we're not the center of the universe.
But that's one
theory. But I do suspect that other countries learn about Pearl Harbor, don't they? Is that a thing that you learn?
It's probably very like a friend, like the sinking of the Bismarck. Or the sinking of the Bismarcky. You got what I need. And you say he's just a friend. Oh, baby, you. Yeah, it's probably like sinking of the Bismarck, or what else we got? Atomic bomb. That was a thing that happened.
The Battle of Britain. We learned about that, right?
We have to learn about all those kings and queens and shit. They should have to learn about Pearl Harbor.
But do we learn about all the kings and queens, or just the ones?
Yeah, there was some English history for sure.
That do stuff with us
in school. We definitely did some English history.
The Battle of the Bulge, when I'm trying to lose weight after the holidays. We have to learn about the Queen when she just died. The King, our King Elvis, that died.
True.
You know what our King has in common with their king?
What's that?
They both fucked their cousins. And I feel like that with Elvis and the Queen, they're both dead now.
Well, that is true, yes.
And they're hanging out together, and they are probably in a rockin' band. Make God rock out in heaven. And then the Queen and Elvis, they sit around and they bond. They're bonding over all the things that they have stolen from black and brown people.
Well, that is fair.
You know, Jerry Lee Lewis died recently.
Oh, yeah, he died too. Yeah. He was not the king. He was the killer.
He was married to his cousin.
It's true. Yeah, did marry his barely teenage cousin.
Right.
And he...
A different time.
Also murdered one of his wives.
At least one.
I don't think that's true. Is that true?
Yeah, look into it. Do your fucking research, dude.
That's right.
Do your own research.
Did she do something? I mean, what did she do, though?
She mouthed off. She was mouthing off.
Oh,
I think they were about to get divorced.
She was mouthy.
Oh, well, that's a sin.
Yeah. Have you ever heard? And she was mouthy at the time too.
Right, real mouthy.
It's some crazy shit. I'll have to dig it up for another episode. But it is pretty fucking wild. He murdered her, and the town was like, "Wow, it's Jerry Lee Lewis." Great, you've heard "Great Balls of Fire," right?
Right.
And they're for real though. They're just kind of like he was.
Right.
We don't have royalty in this country. Except for like those original rock and roll guys, we're kind of lived a life of that.
Did you think Jerry Lee Lewis and William Shatner and Robert Wagner have all bonded over that?
I bet the Shats and Wagner have.
Okay.
Well, was Wagner married?
He's married to Natalie Wood.
Were they married or were they just?
They were married. I think they married. They married, got divorced, and got married again a second time.
Oh.
Were they just hooking up?
No, they were married.
Were they just talking?
Wasn't Deer Hunter on the boat?
Yeah, Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
And he refuses to talk about it to this day.
Here's what I imagine that conversation would go like with Mr. Christopher Walken.
I want to point out, this isn't an impression. We have Christopher Walken on the show. Go ahead, Christopher.
Well,
Is this also your Woody Allen impersonation?
Natalie Wood just fell over. Yeah. Hot versus hot. I think every good man can do a good Christopher Walken. You know, that's kind of like a staple. That's kind of a staple of being a man, is that you're able to give a good Christopher Walken impression. Mm-hmm. That and a good Jack Nicholson. And I like to think if Jack Nicholson was there, he would have said, "Hey, man, we should jump over the boat and save her." And then they might get a little visit from one of my good friends, Mr. Ronald Reagan. Oh, Nancy, Natalie just fell overboard. Oh, dear. Who's going to help fish her out? Oh, maybe it's, here's a masculine man to come help her out. Mr. Charlton Heston.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in there and save her. But first, I've got to fight this damn dirty ape.
Wow, this is a star-studded episode
He's
this
busy
week.
fighting an ape. Wait a minute. That's no ape he's punching. That's, it's me, Alf. Willie. Stop it. That's kind of what happened. All those people there got confused by Alf getting in a fight with Charlton Heston, so they actually just like left Natalie Wood to drown.
Wow. You heard it here first, folks.
Yep.
This is the real truth.
Uncanny,
What they
Michael.
don't want you to know.
Uncanny.
That is what I expect it would have sounded like on the boat when Natalie Wood died.
So, you guys ready to get started here?
Let me just ask my friend Richard Nixon.
I'm ready for the news.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon.
Welcome to the International News Service. We're your hosts. I'm Kevin Harrison, along with...
I am Brian Camp.
I'm funny man Rich Little.
Is Rich Little dead?
Yeah, he died a few years ago.
Was somebody mad? Was like a murder? Was somebody mad at him for doing too good of an impression?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I lied. Rich Little is still alive.
Hell yeah, he is.
And according to this, he's active and we can book him.
No.
He's 83 years old.
We should book him. We should get him on the pod.
Oh, we should totally get him. I want to hear his collection of late 80s impersonations. Just
Yeah.
I'd like to think that he hasn't done anything since 1986.
Do Mr. T.
Roster. Do you think he can do a Mr. T?
I don't know. That might be even too late.
I'm sure he can do. Yeah, he can do Nixon for sure. He can do Reagan. He probably does a Kissinger.
Little Johnny Carson over here.
Oh yeah, Johnny Carson for sure. I wonder if we have any visits from more celebrities throughout this episode.
This would be exciting.
I think that there's a weird open door. I'm going to go ahead and say this is an open door policy tonight for any of my celeb friends that might want to stop by. I'm going to put a tweet out.
Oh, that's real typing.
That's typing. That's how you send.
I just tweeted out any verified Twitter people who want to stop by and be on the pod. Let me know. So we'll see what happens.
All right.
So this week we've got two news stories, a bonus story, and the Donald P. Belisario Sons continues in Get to Know Your Podcast.
Actually, preemptively, we're taking a side step from the Donald Belisario Sons into it's a continuation from last week, but we are sidestepping. But it is in the tradition of television.
Okay.
I can't wait. I am on Pins and Needles.
Much like a song produced by a fella named Mr. Phil Spector. I got a gun! No idea what Phil Spector sounds like. Never heard him talk.
I think it's a pretty good Phil Spector.
Oh, it's perfect. I wouldn't have known he wasn't in the room except that he's dead.
Is he dead? No.
Yeah, he died in prison.
He was suicided, just like Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, did he kill himself in prison?
Yeah, killed himself.
Sometimes people will eat their clothes to do it.
Oh.
Well, that was actually like a death threat by Mr. Bart Simpson when he would say, "Eat my shorts."
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Eat my shorts, man. Have a cow. Ay, caramba.
So our first story comes to us from the New York Post.
Now, the New York Post, who have famously turned on Donald Trump
Nipo.
recently.
Nipo.
They may have turned back by the time you're listening to this, but
Nipo.
A 39-year-old British freelance writer and hiker recently went on a 326-mile or 525-kilometer hike from his home in the city of Cockermouth to his brother's home in Licky End. During This is going to be the longest story we've ever done.
Nope, let's go. I want to hear more.
During the hike, he also summited several peaks, such as Great Cockup, Little Cockup, and Andrews Knob. He also hiked through a woodland. He also hiked through a woodland called Nanny's Breast, a nature reserve called Knob End, a waterway known as Bottoms Reservoir. The hike also took him down streets named Bell End, Cocking Yard, and Number 2 Passage.
wrecked him, damn near killed him.
Other places he passed included Glory Hole, Old Butt Lane, Hawk Lane, Sour Butts Farm, and Hard Dicker Street. There's a picture of him standing next to the side, like standing in front of the sign for Hard Dicker Street. It's a winner. The man who called his trip the UK's rudest hike said his brother came up with the idea and, quote, "There was a certain poetry to it, with me living in Cockermouth and my brother moving to near Licky End. The hike began on October 26th and ended on November 5th. So, he made pretty good progress because that's about 32 miles a day. The man used it as a fundraiser for the testicular cancer organization Baggy Trousers UK. He found all the locations along the hike himself and said his favorite finds included Willie Lane in Cockerham, Buttsfold in Cockermouth, and Twatling Road in Licky Hills."
The problem with a story like this, Kevin, is there's a whole lot we have to say about it.
Yeah. The other thing I can think of is that I'm going to get some commentary from my friend, the Dice Man, Mr. Andrew Dice Clay. Oh, Cocker Lane, piss on my shoe. Licky dick, Dicky Maroo. Suck my dick and make it shoot good.
So do we have any, Mike, you've been in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Are there any funny place names here in the States?
No, maybe Tucumcari. That's kind of a funny name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like there's two
Walla
people
Walla.
and they're carrying cum. Like do you think like two guys run around with a bunch of cum in their hands? That's pretty fun.
I do always laugh when I'm driving down to Austin and I pass Milford.
Is there a
I think it says
Milford?
Milford.
I'm trying to think. There's got to be. I'm sure somebody's thinking of one that we're missing. I'm sure.
I know there's Suck My Dick, fucking cum on my face, Iowa.
I never thought of that one that way, but that is. Huh. You're right, Mike.
Wow.
That one never stuck out to me.
There's Water Sports, Utah. Water sports is in when you have a piss party.
Oh, sure. And for the listener, what is?
Well, that's when let's like a fella might spread open his bottom cheeks and his butthole, and a lady might spread open her labia, and then people would take pisses on that, and it would splash about, fill up mouths. And you just piss and you like let it fill up a mouth, and
I don't think that's a real town.
That's not the name of the name is Water Sports Utah, but that's Water Sports is what people in the porn industry call that kind of activity.
Oh, well, you would know, because
is that an LDS thing?
I've never done a water sports video. I've masturbated to a water sports video, but I've never done one.
So I will say this on the same note. I did remember. I know when Brian likes when I bring up Ohio.
Sure.
And there is
there's shoot cum in my eye, Ohio.
Oh no, there is the town of PP Township in Pike County, Ohio.
Grow up,
population 7,776.
There's Let's Go Brandon, Arkansas. That's a clever one.
You know what that means, right, Mike? You know what it means, right? Like look, you know what it means though. You should look it up. It's a football
player, right?
Nah, you look it up and see what it means. It's pretty cool.
Brandon Brady, the football player.
Brandon Brady.
He's my favorite football player.
Yeah, he's an excellent footballer.
Wait, what team does he play for again?
The 49 Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
The Patreons. That'd be a good name for a podcast league football squadron. We could be called the Patreons.
A podcast league football squadron.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wants to see us playing that.
Oh, we'd be great.
Well, we'd be good. They might want to not want to watch it, but we would dominate.
Yeah, we're not soft like those other podcasters.
I will rub Ira Glass's bespectacled dick in the dirt. I'll run train tracks on his ass.
So
click or clack.
I did do a little bit of research for this episode.
Congratulations.
This was actually something I found from I was looking at the places people who listen to us, and one of the places was Coxsackie, New York. And then I was like, well, where is that? And I look up Coxsackie, New York, and it's Coxsackie, New York is 5 minutes from Climax, New York.
That is fantastic. Well, I hope that's a real person, and I hope
shout out to whoever is listening to us in Coxsackie.
He or she is a good human being. If by chance they are bedridden and this is the only hour of enjoyment they get a week, if this is the only thing that gives them a reason to open their eyes in the morning and consider trying to take another step, you're very welcome, and we hope you continue to listen. Good listener in Coxsackie, New York.
But only if they're bedridden?
I assume they are. Why else would you still be in Coxsackie?
Yeah. I hope there's no Coxsackians with eczema on their Coxsackies.
I have kind of ashy elbows. Don't most people, aren't eczema, like autism, is on a scale, right, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
It's scale E.
No, I mean, like there's like some people have it real bad, but some people just have like mild.
I mean, I get it on my hands, from citrus fruits.
That's your fake allergy. I get like on my elbows and on my forearms a little bit. Sometimes it gets, and I always thought like, it's just really dry skin, but it just seems a little too scaly for that. So
yeah.
I grease myself down with Vaseline from head to toe, including my hair.
That's just how you go through life.
That way no one can grapple me.
That's good.
I want to be able to slickly slide out of my clothes and be able to.
You never know when you'll be grappled.
Yeah, you never know. So that's why I'm covered in Vaseline most of the time.
Also the name of your favorite Bush song.
Don't let the days go by. Vaseline.
No, Vaseline. I'm looking this up.
It should have been easier on your shaman chamber to woman. Vaseline, Vaseline, Vaseline. Vaseline.
I mean that was a Bush song, but Vaseline is a Stone Temple Pilots song.
No. Stone Temple Pilots have time to meet the crow. The crow is on your TV screen, yeah. Time to see the crow. His dizzy head is black and crowy. He looks just like a crow. He flies around to and fro. Feed the crow.
So our next story comes to us from the Washington Post.
Oh,
Wapo. From Naipo to Wapo.
I feel like our former guest, Ashley Sharma, should be here for this story, but we're going to have to knuckle through it without her.
Are you talking about registered nurse Ashley Sharma?
Yes. Registered nurse Ashley Sharma.
Yeah, I did a comedy show with her at Capital City Comedy Club just last Saturday. She's really, really funny.
Earlier this year, a 38-year-old nurse who worked in a hospital in Wisconsin was looking for something very specific for her family's taxidermy shop. Specifically, she wanted a human foot that she could put up next to a sign that said, "Wear your boots, kids." She must have thought she hit the jackpot last winter when the hospital admitted a 62-year-old man who suffered severe frostbite on his feet. Several employees said that the man's feet looked, and I want to point this out, it explicitly said several people said this. Nobody has ever said the quote that I'm about to read. Several employees said the man's feet looked, quote, black like a mummy.
I think you would say that. I think I could hear people saying that. Because that's what mummy feet look like.
When you think of mummy feet, you think of like all wrapped in gauze.
No, that's wrapped mummy feet. I'm just saying, I'm imagining if I were to unwrap a mummy's foot, it would look like a jerked human, like someone who's been put in some sort of smoking shed. That's what their feet are going to look like. That's what
like
a
turkey jerky.
That's your words.
Turkey jerky.
It's a healthy snack.
So the man was not expected to live long. It was described as, quote, slightly coherent. The nurse asked to amputate one of the man's feet, but permission was denied because it was believed he would die anyway. Nevertheless, she said she did it because she, quote, believed it was the right thing to do. She put the foot in a biohazard bag and then stored it in the freezer.
Fucking love that band. Fucking love Biohazard. Hell yeah. Fucking, yeah. Slam! I let the boys be boys. Dun, dun, dun. A guitar player is dating or married to Tara Patrick, porno star. Wow. And he was in Oz too. Got a big old hog on him. Whipped it out a couple of times.
So, she also told her colleagues she was taking the foot home to either epoxy it or bronze it. Apparently, none of this was told to the police, but the hospital kept the foot and delivered it to the funeral home with the man's body when he died a few days later. That's when the medical examiner saw the foot and started asking questions. The woman is now facing charges of mayhem and intentionally causing great bodily harm to an elderly person. If found guilty, she could be sentenced to up to 92 years in prison.
Sounds about right.
92 years for severing a foot?
1 year for every year of the elderly person. He was 92, so she gets 92 years.
20 years for each toe. And then she gets -8 years for good behavior.
So was the thing she was making, was it supposed to be like a cautionary, like wear your boot because this could happen to you could get a mummy foot if you don't wear a boot. Was that the thing? Was she trying to help people?
I think that's what she was trying to suggest. Yeah.
She's a real hero in this story.
Well, I don't think cutting off anybody's foot without permission is a hero.
Well, was the guy going to die if he kept it on?
We're all dying, Michael.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, he was going to die either way.
He was going to die either way.
Yeah, he was going to die either way. So what happened, she asked for permission. They said no. And then she went to check on him with two other nurses. One nurse was attending to his other foot. One nurse was holding his hand and taking his temperature or something. And then she just looks at his foot and goes, I don't think this is doing him any favors, and cut it off in front of him. No anesthetic or anything. Yeah. It must have taken a few seconds.
Well, right. I think with a hacksaw, according to one movie, you can saw your foot off in just a couple minutes, right?
In the Saw movie, yes.
No, I mean, it's either that or blow up. Because if he was chained to his bed with high tensile steel,
you're talking about
he never would have gotten away. Yeah, right.
2 days ago, I saw a vehicle that'll hold that tanker. You want to get out of here?
Look who showed up!
You talk to me.
The most controversial guest we've ever had.
You promised me a hot tub.
Oh yeah, he did say that.
Okay, so what was the ailment that he came in with? Guy on the gurney?
I guess he fell. He was elderly. He fell. His he couldn't get back up, and his house the heat wasn't on.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
It's a cavalcade of stars.
Where's the beef?
But yeah, so his heat wasn't on. He got frostbite in his feet, and then they were, he was going to die anyway.
Boy, oh boy, I tell you this is so fucked up. I gotta get there's a Reddit subreddit called, I think it's called Terrifying as Fuck, and I gotta get off of it. because I was going through there and it was a guy and the dude was alive and it was his foot and it was all the flesh was gone and you could see the main tendons that move the toes, and it was just filled with divots full of maggots, just fucking, I mean, thousands, just like just eating up there. And it was, I mean, there was
because they ate the infection.
There was less foot than there was maggots.
More maggot than man.
Right.
More maggot than man. Twisted and evil. It was so fucking gnarly, though. It freaked me out so bad. I had like weird sleep because of it.
Did he have frostbite? Was it like a homeless frostbite
situation? I don't know where
situation?
he got it from. It was just like a quick video of like the fucking video going down to the foot and
Was the music juxtaposed? Did the music fit? Was it?
It was yakety sax.
I'd like watch that.
I mean, how did she? You can't just like chop it off. It would take a bit, right? I mean, maybe if it's.
I think they just got bone saws laying around all over the place in a hospital.
Oh, and they just like literally go zzz.
I like it was rotting, like it smelled bad apparently, and
You could probably twist it off.
Yeah, I have a feeling it came off really easily because nobody. Yeah. It was just kind of like she said she was going to do a thing, and then she did like. If I was in a room with somebody and they're like, "Hey, as long as I got this foot in my hand, I'm just going to cut it off." I feel like normally, under most circumstances, I would have time to say, "No, don't do that. You're crazy," and then stop them from wielding whatever implement they have. And this just seemed to be like a quick, like, few seconds.
Was the guy conscious when this happened?
Yeah, in fact, like,
how did he respond? Was he like, "Please don't," or was he just like?
It says he was barely conscious. She says he was relieved. And then one of the nurses on duty said he barely seemed to feel it. And then the other nurse said, like, she told him it hurt quite a lot. Huh. But the hospital itself, their libel here is just releasing statements like, well, she didn't have permission, but it was probably in the patient's best interest.
I know that there's angels of death and mean nurses and stuff, but this doesn't seem like that. It is weird that she was like, I'm just going to fucking keep this and this won't come up again. But other than that, it doesn't seem like she was doing this for fun.
Well, think about all the other stuff she probably has in her house. Didn't you say that she has a family of taxidermists?
Yeah, she comes from a family of taxidermists.
She's probably stolen all kinds of body parts then. And this is just the first time she got caught. I
wondered about that.
Like, if she was so bold to do it in front of other people, they know what she does.
Yeah.
She probably does it all the time.
And then she told them what she wanted to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like she told different people different things because she told somebody she wanted to do epoxy it, but she told somebody else she was going to bronze it.
She probably has a bunch of torsos she's turned into wastebaskets.
Yeah, she probably has some hollowed out butt cheeks that she uses as ashtrays.
Mm-hmm. Or cereal bowls.
Well, Ed Gein this was in Wisconsin. Ed Gein also famously from Wisconsin.
Yeah. All those cheese curds, that'll do it.
Goes straight to your brain.
Mm. Michael, what are you looking at?
I just got a book, an Ed Gein book that was really good by that guy, Eric Powell. That's a graphic novel. That guy, Eric Powell, that did.
Oh, yeah.
I think that came up on here before. Anyway,
yeah.
I don't know. This doesn't seem like jail worthy. Possibly lose her job, but I don't know.
Foot off of a living person over their wishes.
Yeah, I just say cutting a foot off a living person is jail worthy.
But if it's a fucking putrefied, gangrenous, frostbitten thing that's going to kill you by leaving it on there,
I think you have to at least go. You're not using this anymore, and. Would it be too much of a problem if I cut it off? I think that would be.
Well, I feel like
give at least a cursory.
If she made the decision that this has to happen to save this person's life, and
no, he was going to die no matter what. He was severely, he was in hospice.
If she thought this was going to make him, and there's 3 different reports. There is one he said it hurt, one he said he didn't feel it, and one that was he said it made me feel better. So I don't think that we have the full picture of all of it. I just don't think that, for fun, I feel like if she was going to do this for funsies, she would have waited till he was dead, especially with other people in the room.
I don't know that she's going to have access once he's dead.
Yeah, I think the funsies are doing it while he's alive. I think that's what she got off on. I think she was just loving it. Just looking at him in the eye, making eye contact.
Like a McDonald's cheeseburger?
She just slowly takes that saw and and the skin starts to slough off.
Yeah.
And a couple of the nails just make that kind of sticky, peely sound. And she's just giggling. Oh,
and she had panty pudding.
That's right.
When that happened.
Just singing, put one foot in front of the other, real slow, staring at him.
Wait, now, when you say one foot in front of the other,
you put one foot in front of the other, just sawing through her ankle. I got your mummy foot. I got your mummy foot. Just laughing, and all the other nurses, they love it too.
Yeah,
that's what happens in hospitals. Nurses will steal your body parts.
And then she
well, that's true.
She like picked up the foot afterwards, and she like wiggled it around and showed it to him, and she just goes like, Tarantino's gonna jack off to this real good.
That's exactly what happened. I think it's been a while. I think we solved this one.
I was on one side of the fence and you guys pulled me over to it, you know. I get it now.
Right.
So our next story is a bonus story. If you want to listen to this, go to our Patreon and subscribe at least the $3 level. That's the Knights of Kevin level, and you get access to this and all our other bonus stories. In fact, we just put up a new road story. So if you loved Mike's road stories, we got one more that involves the La Brea tar pit.
Hey, Kevin?
Yes.
Is $3 a lot of money?
The price of a cup of coffee a day.
Right. And you don't have to have the burden of knowing you've kept somebody alive past their natural death day.
Yep.
True. Certainly not doing that to us.
Yeah, don't play God.
And if think about this too. Instead of buying that cup of coffee and making it on your own, you are not providing the funding for a barista to try and get a career in improv comedy. So you're saving the world in two ways.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a little taste with this story. It's about
just a taste.
Just a taste. You know, the subscribers get the whole thing, but the taste is it's about the real reason so many men can't keep steady jobs.
Ooh.
That's right.
Does it involve mummy feet?
No. No, we only have one mummy feet story.
You will be wobbly after you lose one of your mummy feet for sure.
That's true.
A reason why these men are having trouble keeping their jobs could be best explained by my good friend, Mr. John Travolta.
Oh, no.
Hey, I'm dancing over here. What? I got to dance. I just can't take a job. I got to dance.
So Mike has a news story for us now in Get to Know Your Podcast.
Now, would you call this a news story, or would you call it human interest, maybe?
No, we're looking, but this is media and culture.
Okay.
Yes, last week, I believe we introduced the world of a Mr. Stringfellow Hawk, as portrayed by Jan Michael Vincent.
Yes.
And we played some clips from his appearance on Geraldo Rivera, which brought me to the subject of trash TV.
Ooh.
That's what we're going to be looking at today. The beginnings of trash TV, a la Geraldo Rivera.
Hey, Mike, what could you, for the listener, when you say trash TV, what do you mean exactly?
Well, I have it. This is started me on a theorem, a cultural theorem. So most of the time, if you turn on TV right now, the TV stations, especially network TV, dominated by reality TV, which is ultimately total fucking garbage. Awfulness that contributed to things as awful as the last president of the United States, Donald Trump, that we had. Now that's the end game, and we'll get to that eventually. But let's go back to the beginning. There was a time when news was news. You turned on the news, and pretty much people kind of trusted the news for the most part. Now, I did not live too much earlier than the 70s, and surely there were always lascivious stories going on. But at some point, things started to take a turn, and the news got trashier and trashier. And I'm sure there were people before this man, but one of the big starts was a guy who's still in the scene right now named Mr. Geraldo Rivera. Now, Geraldo was a news reporter on kind of a ABC for a while, and he was kind of a middling guy who would get little reports where he'd go out and do stuff. He was an investigative journalist, and that meant that the news stories were him kind of ambushing this place or that place. And for the most part, he was considered fairly innocuous and fairly not a big deal. He kind of came to some real prominence when it was a thing he got not an Emmy award, was it a Peabody award?
Yeah.
No, he went to this special needs insane asylum type place for youth, and he kind of did a thing where he went and exposed how horrible the conditions were. How everybody was these kids were like living in squalor. They were being mistreated. It was real shitty, and it did a lot of good for that place because it kind of opened up people's eyes. But the thing is, like, he didn't actually do any of the work of finding out about that place. That work was all done by a couple of newspapers, and he still gets credit for that's the one good thing he did. But it was a bunch of newspapers in that town. It was in upstate New York that did all the work kind of exposing that. And then he just rolled up there with cameras based on what he'd heard and just kind of ran in there and started jibber jabbering around. But he won a Peabody, was kind of riding high, was kind of a big name on ABC. But then one of his coworkers, and I don't know how much he had to do with the actual story, but he was very vocal about it. One of his coworkers did a news story about how JFK, the aforementioned JFK, that he had sex with Marilyn Monroe, which I believe came up in the story earlier. And how his brother had also had sex, making them both
Teddy Kennedy,
biological and Eskimo brothers. The network at the time was like, this is like mostly hearsay, and it's also like I think it was like 60 Minutes. Like we're a real news show. This is kind of, and this may have also been like of an era where people didn't try to trash the presidents and stuff as hard as it were. Granted, Kennedy was already dead and everything. This is like the early 80s.
Michael, and I'm sorry, was this at the same time that there was kind of a trash biography about Marilyn Monroe written?
Oh, I don't know.
Did this coincide with that at all? That, like,
I would bet. I mean, because there definitely is
question is it true or not? We don't know. You know,
there was certainly a lot of trashy newspapers and books being written, but as far as the network news, it was fairly sanitized up till this point. And whatever state, it was ABC, but I don't know if the program was 60 Minutes or another show, but the network was like, yeah, you did this story, but we're not going to air it. But Geraldo, already kind of realizing that his bread and butter was going to be trashy, splashy, accusational stuff, he threw a fit, made a public stink about it, and got fired. And so he's kind of bumming around for a while, and somebody came to him and said, hey, you know about Al Capone's vault? So they put him on the thing, and he was a part of, which is, it's crazy now. Like, and especially like, I think like the three of us are very familiar with this, but to people, younger people might not have ever heard of this. It came out in 1986, and it was fucking huge. It was a 2-hour special that was aired live. They really did not know what was going to be in these vaults. They found these underground sort of tunnels under a hotel in Chicago. They knew that some of the land was held by Al Capone back in the days, and they just figured, well, there might be something in there. They used like some sonar and some radar and found that there were these empty rooms down there, and they're like, and they looked like there was some items in there, possibly a safe. And so they decided to run a special, and this wasn't Geraldo's idea either. They came to him, and because they had talked about trying to get like Tom Brokaw and people like that, but either those people had said like, there's no story here, no, or they were just like, there was a couple people too. Originally they were going to try and get Robert Stacked, who was on the show The Untouchables, but they were like, we need somebody that can kind of improv and do nothing in case a problem comes up or whatever. So they go to Geraldo, and he's smarting because he just got fired, and they're like, we'll give you $25,000 to do it. He's like, I'll do it for 50. And they say, okay, which is kind of insane that he could command that much dough after not even really being that famous in 1986. Everybody just kind of convinced themselves there was going to be something awesome down there. There was really like no evidence for it. The plan is an hour of the special is going to be just a documentary about Al Capone and shit that he did in his life and anything lascivious they could find out about him, which is plenty because it's Al Capone. He's a gangster with syphilis and stuff like that. And the rest is just going to be them live trying to get like into the thing. And it's split up through the whole part. So and then it was a really insane decision. They're like, we're going to do it live, which is, you know, I mean, a lot of people have done stuff like this, but usually shoot it all ahead of time, just hoping that something's going to happen and knowing you're going to do. But they do it. They decide to do it live, and it goes on and on and on. And they break through. They finally get into it, and there's like literally nothing. There's like literally nothing in there, and everyone is like pissed because it wasted everyone's time. The country is mad, but it got like. In Chicago, it got like a 78 share because it happened in Chicago. Like a 78 means like 78% of the people watching TV were watching that.
Right.
And everyone was
even
watching
though it was
TV.
On if everyone was watching TV, 70 of the percent. And the show did so well live that even people were finding out ahead of time that on the coasts that they didn't find anything in the end, but the show was immensely popular. And they didn't really know this at the time. Like everybody thought their careers were over when they got in there and that there was absolutely nothing there. And they also had to fill a couple minutes. So and I did not remember this at all, but Geraldo sings for a little bit because they just had to fill some time. So everybody's super bummed, and like Geraldo goes back and gets like says he gets shit-faced drunk and just like, well, my career's over, but wakes up and this is like kind of like to me, like this is the defining point of America and American TV and American entertainment that kind of, to me, it's kind of this overarching thing of why so much is so shitty in entertainment is that a lot of people watched it. So it was considered a success.
Yeah.
It pissed off everybody. It was watched by so many people that it was considered after the fact, like, well, it was panned. Every single critic panned it. And everybody made fun of Geraldo. But the fact that it was so successful got Geraldo the cachet to get his own talk show. And he continued to be a piece of shit and do anything at all sensational. The trickle down from the popularity of this giant bumfuck in my opinion, has continued all the way to this day to the presidency. But let me backtrack and go some of the other stuff. So a couple years later, Geraldo has a show on he's get this talk show, and it just begins the start of trash. You got to think this is, at least like Oprah was, while a little bit trashy, was trying to kind of deal with social issues and talk about stuff. But Geraldo immediately knows, like, you got to go for the trashiest of the trashy, which he starts getting ratings for this, which ultimately makes Oprah more trashy. And Donahue, which was considered kind of trashy in its time, this pushes all these other talk shows to go further and further.
Right.
So, for instance, 88, a couple years later, he does an episode called Devil Worship, Exposing Satan's Underground.
That one I watched.
And it's him where he gets a whole bunch of Satan worshipers on stage, but a lot of them are Wiccans just trying to speak their piece. He gets King Diamond up there.
Nice.
And just goes on and on, just creating these like, he opens up by saying how it's a fact that there are millions of Satan worshipers in every town that are abducting children, that are sacrificing children, and the FBI won't do anything about it.
Right.
And he opens it up with that. And again, we're coming from an era when the news was kind of more the news more often.
Right.
But Geraldo knows he's got to dig in all this, and he's, angrily spewing things against Ozzy Osbourne and King Diamond, and goes on to say that bands like Wasp, that actual blood drinking is a part of their live performances. So he starts having these people that are pixelated out, these Satan worshipers who all talk about how they got into Satan through drugs like alcohol and marijuana. That was their ticket into Satanism. And it's kind of like the kickoff for what ultimately becomes the Satanic Panic, which ultimately has people going to jail and all of this. So that later on, he keeps doing more and more stuff. He's like starts just realizing that the more conflict he can have on stage, the better.
Right.
So that's around the time he invites a bunch of Aryan Nation and KKK guys along on stage with a bunch of kind of like Black Power, Black Brotherhood people, and invites factions of both of those parties. So obviously a huge fight breaks out on stage. A chair gets thrown. His nose gets broken. He got this crazy nose brace in order to fix the broken nose and made sure to wear it for the longest amount of time possible. Gets huge press for that. He goes and he somehow gets to go interview Charles Manson. And it is the funniest fake tough guy bullshit of him trying to act like a badass in front of Manson, and just, it's tiny little, and I'm not trying to defend Charles Manson, but he's a squirrely little, clearly radically insane person.
Right.
And it's basically Geraldo sitting there and threatening Charles Manson with, you're a psychopath, you're evil, you are the purest of pure evil, and just baiting him. And they interviewed him for like an hour and a half, and they cut like all the segments together to be like the 12 minutes of Manson saying the craziest and shittiest stuff. Trash TV gets trashier in general. Geraldo's show is on for 8 years, and at some point, like, it starts to out trash him. Like, Jerry Springer comes out, and it's literally just a massive fist fight every single show. Maury Povich comes out, and it is just, you're not the father, the father. A current affair comes out, which is just a anchor style desk show that is just a series of clips like that. He's spawned all this stuff, and at some point he grows out of that. So what does he do? He leaves and becomes a professional, like, quote unquote, he tries to step up and go back into like the ABC news department. And from there, he starts doing shit like going to like making up stories about how he's in Afghanistan under fire conditions and stuff, just completely making up stuff that gets debunked. And he just tries to defend it by saying, I was under the fog of war. And from there, he's just kind of gone on to be, he's a Trump supporter when he needs to be. He's figured out how to find at any given point the place to turn to, because he knows the best thing he can do. This is all from that very first lesson that I think he like legitimately learned. I think he learned how to be confrontational at the Willowbrook State Cemetery. He knew you have to be controversial there. I think that Geraldo learned from the Al Capone's vault that it doesn't matter, that the more people dislike you, that the more controversy, that it doesn't matter whether people like you or dislike you. In fact, disliking you makes you even more popular and even more successful.
Right.
So which leads him all up to like being a huge Trump backer. And then when people are like railing against him, but then he actually turned on Trump kind of before everybody has right now, turning all the Trump people against him. And it's just a shitty thing that he's going to keep doing for the rest of his fucking putrid, muscly mustache career. Fuck that guy. Fuck Geraldo. Worship Satan.
Yes. Okay. Continue.
All right. Way ahead of you there.
Yeah.
And I hope that we see him in the Willowbrook prison getting his testicles mutilated. I don't know. I don't really have an ending for that other than I got it because we started talking about Geraldo last week, and I was like, wow, what a piece of shit. I just thought he was such a piece of shit to Jan Michael Vincent that I just wanted to look into him more. And I hate to say it would be hyperbolic to say that he's the reason that Trump became president or that reality TV shows are as popular as they are. Mm-hmm. For sure, he's not. But he is a defining force in that and many other pieces of shittiness over the years.
He helped work the soil that allowed for a Trump presidency to grow. He helped create that environment. Well, and it's interesting, Mike, and I'm sure other people have drawn this parallel, but you talked about his talk show in his early episodes with the neo-Nazis, but specifically the early Satanists in America stuff he did, and talking about this kind of, you don't know this, but there's children being kidnapped by the thousands, by the hundreds of thousands, and how that is that belief has probably never really gone away, and just over the years it's been reshuffled, and the bad actors have been renamed and moved around, but it all the way to the kind of nonsense adrenochrome conspiracies that of QAnon, right?
Absolutely.
It's just this continuing thread, and in this belief that there's this weird, because that's always a strange thing. Like, who are these kids? Like, no one can ever identify who they are, name any of them, but just, which seems weird. But if that is such a effective trope, if it's such an effective story to, I mean, it's the Pied Piper, right? But I wonder if there is even before him, if there was an earlier version of that and where did this idea of the secret mass kidnapping of children start? And it might have been him, because it's strange to me that people are so willing to believe that.
I don't think it was him that started that, but he was a guy that really worked hard to propagate it on a national circuit, on a real national level. And the difference between, and I don't know if this is more or less deplorable. I don't know what's worse. I think there are people out there, and I think they're fucking morons that actually believe this stuff, And I think that there's as big of a shitball.
I don't think I'm a moron.
As big as a shitball as some of these like Alex Jones types, I think that they at least pretend to make themselves think that they actually believe it. I don't think Geraldo believes a single thing. I think he believes in ratings, and I think he 100% believes in success within ratings. And I don't think that it matters in any way, shape, or form whether it's true. It's whether it's plausible enough to be true and get him attention and not get in trouble.
Okay.
And I think that's his whole fucking thing.
You can always have sympathy for the truly misguided, right? Like people who have been conned, people who have been tricked, people who have been bamboozled, people who have been led astray. You can always empathically feel kind of bad for him. Like, man, that sucks that you were just a person that's a sucker for that stuff.
You're too dumb to know no better.
Yeah.
Yes, or that. But certainly someone who is the person who knowingly goes out of their way to propagate this stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, he already made $50,000 off the Al Capone thing. Back then, that was like $20 million. So,
man, that's so much money.
That's so much money.
If I remember right, and I might not be remembering this correctly, he wanted $50,000 because that's what he owed on his boat.
I could be. I watched it. Did you guys watch it? I remember watching it.
No, I don't. I didn't know about. Like, I don't know what I was watching in '86.
Y'all weren't allowed a TV box.
Until I just heard it was on.
Now, how did we get from Airwolf to this? I missed a lot.
It'll make sense when you listen to.
And for the listener, that's Mark Ryan, who's demanding answers.
Yeah, Mark Ryan has joined us.
Producer Mark Ryan, demanding answers. And usually the look on his face, the sneer he's directing at Michael right now is, it's hard to take.
It's not a linear line. It's a line that ziggy-zaggies.
Right.
Much like the papers of the joints I used to smoke when I started worshiping Satan.
Well, that's
in all his forms.
That's how you get introduced to satanic forces, is by allowing your mind to be altered by a drug
that's wrapped in ziggy-zaggies.
Well, it is. I mean, yeah, we played the Geraldo Stringfellow Hawk Jan Michael Vincent thing, and it's it's both kind of funny, but also when you're watching it and you see like the hyenas in the audience, and this guy Jan Michael Vincent is not a sympathetic figure. No. He's a wife-beaten piece of shit, right, at this point in his life, but still just the fact that he's being exploited.
Damn good helicopter pilot.
Well, that's why you keep him around, right? We wouldn't put up with him if he couldn't, unless he could pilot. Yeah. Well, his brother, him or his brother. But it's but just that it's not. He's not, like you described with the Charles Manson thing. Geraldo's not accomplishing anything except also being a piece of shit, exploiting another piece of shit.
Yeah,
it's like he's this other piece of shit that you notice that's aimed at a piece of shit on the ground that maybe is slightly worse.
Now, Mike, I have a question. Do you have a quote from Geraldo about our expose of his past?
My shitty past and my mustache that is wildly out of date with any given time, and my stupid chin. My stupid chin and my stupid nose that was broken over and over and over again. And my meaty man titties.
So many celebrities have joined us this episode. It's really, again, on the day that we'll live in infamy, it's so wonderful to have an outpouring of support from the celebrity community, both living and deceased.
Never forget Pearl Harbor.
FDR.
That wraps up another week in the International News Service. Find us across social media at International News Pod. Email us at internationalnewspod@gmail.com. We all hate watching Geraldo, but the next time you have the urge, maybe a better idea is just to sit down and listen to INS. Check out the INS merch store at Redbubble and our Patreon. We'll see you next week.
A day that will live in infamy.
Thank you for listening to the International News Service. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. INS, the news you need.